Good evening, everyone. This is Michael Campbell. I am the founder and CEO of the Street Smarts. And I just want to welcome everyone here to, I guess you could say it's the culmination of our Black History Month celebration. If you've been following us on LinkedIn Live, we have been highlighting various African Americans, both male and female, that have made a difference in the finance and business world. And just want to remind everybody that if you get an opportunity and you're not already a follower of the Street Smarts, please go to the Street Smarts LinkedIn page and become a follower. We're trying to get to 1,000. And once we get that 1,000, we should, the Street Smarts should have their own LinkedIn Live broadcast. Secondly, during this month, and it will continue into next, is our Gofundme campaign. And you can go to our website, which is www.thestreetsmarts.org, and you can click on the link to go to the Gofundme page. And I think that's about it. So I just want to thank you guys for coming, and I want to introduce you to they're our junior board, and they're doing really good work. And this is going to be about, it's about the future. And so I'm just going to bring them on one at a time, and then I am going to let Parker get started. And speaking of Parker, there he is. And then there's Jacob, Mira, and Brahim. And our special guest today is someone that I feel like I have known this man for at least a couple of years, maybe even more. It's a really, really good brother that's coming here to, you know what they say, drop a little knowledge on us. So without further ado, I wish I had a drum roll. Mr. Troy Prince, the founder and CEO of Wall Street Bound. Hey there, Troy.
Hey, Michael. Hey, everyone. What's happening?
Hello, Troy. Thanks so much. First and foremost, thank you so much for coming on. So much has gone into this, and you agreeing to come on. It means so much to us. And it's just something, for the younger generation, something that I'm passionate about, TSS is passionate about, Michael's passionate about, you're passionate about. So we really, really appreciate your time. Really appreciate you participating in this event.
Of course. I'm glad to have been invited. I would almost say it's an honor because it's exactly for young people like yourselves why Wall Street Bound exists, why the Street Smarts exist. So if anything, give yourselves a round of applause for just being in the mix and helping old guys like myself just do the work.
No, definitely. Thank you again. Yeah, it's really, really great. Well, first off, help give us a little context, for the audience out there. Back to the beginning. Now, I know you're from a kid from the Bronx. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing. What got you interested in the finance world? Maybe even walk us through, your professional career as an equity trader. Up to this point, and highlighting some of the more, say, memorable times in your career.
That's a lot there to unpack, so I'll try to break it down piece by piece, and you'll stop me if I go too far in any one direction. But yeah, Parker. So West Indian descendant, raised in the Bronx, and my mother was a teacher. Her sister was a teacher. Her mother worked for the principal at one of two high schools in St. Thomas, and so I had no choice but to be on the straight and narrow. So I was fortunate to have that background and the discipline of a West Indian family, and so I ended up at one of these specialized high schools here in New York City, Bronx High School of Science, well known, it's just competitive, and so I was exposed to things that I might not have been otherwise. And so I was very fortunate to be exposed to the stock market. And I would say by graduation, by 16, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with my life. It's also around the same time a book written by gentleman Jack Schwager was published, Market Wizards. If you haven't read that book, if you're interested in the markets, you must read it. Jack Schwager, Market Wizards. This was interviews with some of the world's best known traders to date, and I knew what I wanted to do. And so it's been a straight line journey. By 17, I was cold calling at what was then Shearson Lehman, and by 18, I was working in operations at the Goldman of its day, for you young people, Salomon Brothers, which is maybe 5 mergers before Citibank as it's known today.
Wow. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I could keep on going. You direct me, brother, because
I think that's perfect right there. Actually,
that's
definitely.
That's where the journey begins.
Absolutely. And could you tell us about the time you met Warren Buffett? I know that's a great story. Yeah.
Oh man, putting me on the spot. So Salomon Brothers. This was, let's see, 1990-91, when Japan was at their peak. Pebble Beach, Rockefeller Center had been bought. And so I decided, I started teaching myself Japanese, and I decided by sophomore year after graduation, I would go move to Tokyo. And so I had the good fortune, well, not the good fortune, because this was at the time where Salomon had a famous bond bidding scandal. And so we had an interim chairman, CEO got replaced. Buffett was a largest shareholder. And there's a town hall meeting. I go out and buy my first suit, and I tell myself I'm going to meet this guy. After the meeting, I walk right up to him, Mr. Buffett, I'm in operations, I'm at NYU Stern, introduce myself. I don't really recall. I think he might have shaken my hand, but part of me also maybe feels that he also did not shake my hand. And he kind of just like in that voice, I was like, talk to this guy. And it turns out he introduced me to one of his lieutenants. I forget his name, but lo and behold, I was contacted. And so when I flew to Tokyo, one of the only sort of contacts I had in the industry to try to make it in Tokyo was the name and phone number of the CEO, Salomon Brothers Tokyo, and that started my journey.
That's a great story. Always.
Yeah, and in the finance industry, it seems like you need to have big connections to move up the ladder. And you were recently featured in a Market Watch article stating that you didn't grow up with uncles, fathers, or brothers who run desks. So since it's considered like a major disadvantage, how did you overcome your lack of insider networks when you first started your career?
Yes, great question. Absolutely the case. And, not just me, it's largely our community. And so I was very fortunate in that, I knew from a very early age what I wanted to do. And so that allowed me almost by accident to have some of those experiences in the summer, part-time around school, that by the time I graduated, I already had something on my resume. So that was just, I guess it was somewhat foresight, but almost by accident, because I just knew what I wanted to do. And so by the time I graduated, I had already been at Salomon Brothers at Shearson Lehman. But otherwise, that's a great question. And so, for me, I would also say, and I guess for the larger audience, the importance is the recognition of the work that needs to be put in, the things you need to be doing. For your audience that are students, it's very important the clubs you join. When you're applying for internships, even while you're in school, you're not really expected to have any serious experience, of course. But you need to have something that shows your intent, shows your focus. And so at a minimum, finance clubs, particularly, let's say finance clubs that also lead into finance clubs for underrepresented for groups, projects, and to the degree that you are able to find internships through orgs like Wall Street Bound, like the Street Smarts, absolutely lean into that. And so the thing that we can do as a community that doesn't have the social network, the social capital to just get an introduction, is absolutely be smart and be intentional about how you spend your free time, because that will absolutely make the difference. The least and the most you can do is put things on your resume that are relevant. And that's how you get around that. On top of that, I would say is other activities. I happen to be the strange black guy that played tennis and lacrosse. And so that was a conversation that I could have. I didn't choose those sports because of that. But of course, looking to get on a trading desk, lacrosse does not hurt. And so I was also fortunate to be able to just have that story, but largely it's just the things I was doing.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for asking. Great question.
Our next question centers around, centers around diversity and inclusion. This month we've been focusing on diversity. So we are curious, given your various experiences in the finance industry, do you remember a point in time where the inequalities became so vivid for you?
Oof. Oh man. So Salomon Brothers, again, we were like the big guys on the street back in the day, the Goldman of its day. And so at 7 World Trade Center, after the trading floor moved from, I think it was originally on Water Street, the original, at some point, new offices, trading floor, 7 World, and it was a large trading floor with a viewer gallery, 1 flight up, glass viewer trading floor, beautiful thing. I bring my mother one day, and she's somewhat in tears. I'm like, what's happening? And this was a time where it was myself. I was a junior trading assistant on the desk. There was one other black guy on the trading desk. He was a salesman, Sylvester McClure. We are friends to this day, the closest thing I've ever had to a mentor. And for my mother to look out in that sea of people and see 2 black faces, it was special for her. But for me, I was just kind of doing my thing. Subsequently, fast forward, multiple firms, buy side, sell side, largest buy side firm in the world. I'm looking around and it's just like, at some point, I want to feel like early 2000s, maybe you started seeing more brown and Asian faces on the technology, in the technology areas that service the desk, etc. But for the most part, that's just been the story. That's just been the story. So at some point, it just became apparent that like, this is weird. Any idea that we can't find them is like, we know it's not true. Growing up in the Bronx, in my congregation, I'm the eldest of 5 kids. All of us have degrees. One of my sisters double degrees from Columbia. So the idea that they're not out there is just, I'm not buying it. So 17, 15 years ago, I just had this idea that like, if a guy like me is not going to bring it back home, like who else? So Troy, this is your responsibility.
Yeah, and you're well known for being the founder of Wall Street Bound. So we would love for you to tell us the story of Wall Street Bound's creation, its inception, and its purpose. And why do you think it's so important to create more representation for African Americans and other minorities on Wall Street?
Yeah, again, so that's a great follow-up question, stemming from just the last question, again, for years being just the only guy on the desk in the room. It's just like, this is strange. Like, I know when I go back home to the Bronx, like,
everybody wants to do.
Yeah, it's not, and so I would say a few things. I grew up in the shadow of Yankee Stadium. The whole world takes that train ride up to Yankee Stadium, then goes back downtown. They don't think anything of it. Nobody really walks around the neighborhood. And I Googled it, at some point, and I think it's exactly 11.2 miles away from the New York Stock Exchange. And I'm thinking to myself, how is it that the greatest economic engine mankind has ever known is 11.2 miles from the poorest congressional district in all of America, period? Hashtag Wall Street Bound. Like, somebody has to do this work because Wall Street clearly does not have the will, capacity, desire to bridge these 2 universes. Because if a guy like me is not able to look beyond the braids, the cornrows, the pants may be too low, who else is going to give these young people a chance, much less the ones like yourselves that are really leaning into the moment, really leading into the work and at the forefront? And so it's just a matter of someone saying, listen, I'm going to pick up the mantle because clearly it's not going to happen on its own. And again, how can the poorest congressional district in America be 11.2 miles under 12 from the New York Stock Exchange? How is that possible in America?
That makes so much sense. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for asking.
Absolutely, Troy. And it even goes to today, where there was a recent study in February 2020 by the House Financial Services Committee. And it found that workforce diversity is more visible in entry level rather than the executive level and the senior level positions. What do you see as the most effective course of action to the lack of Black and underrepresented groups at those executive and those senior level positions?
Oh boy, that's a loaded question, man. Turn the camera off and turn the mic off.
No, you've got the expertise, so we always love to have the input from you.
Expertise, yeah, but okay, I would say this. We know what the real problem is, but I'll put that aside. We know what the answer is. We know what's going on there, but I'll put that aside. In terms of what can be done in terms of encouraging a change of behavior, there are a few things, For example, I think it was the Bureau of Labor Statistics did a study 20, 30 years ago, a long time ago, with data research that proved that computers, algorithms can foretell the performance of employees better than humans can. Intuitively, subjective biases. The Fed did a study a few years ago, 2 exact resumes, put the name of one, I think it was John, put the name of the other one, something ethnic like Raekwon or something. Not Raekwon, but anyway, an ethnic name, 2 exact same resumes. Who do you think got more phone calls? So, blind resumes could be a practical way to think about it. Wall Street Bound, we're very, very intentional about the idea of alternate forms of recruiting and assessment. So we use cognitive behavioral assessments because, again, Wall Street claims to be about data. So let's get beyond the zip code. Let's get beyond the name, the freakonomics. Okay, how does this person think? How do they problem solve? What are their brains like? So more cognitive behavioral assessments. And I guess at some point, more broadly speaking, is just for us orgs and you young people to just be constantly knocking on those doors and pushing through to the point where it becomes just a pure economic conversation where it hurts not to have a diversified looking organization because the data is there as well. The famous McKinsey study is not new, but to the degree that is all within the context of a change of the mind, heart, spirit of the majority corporate America, that's another conversation.
So Troy, we've seen companies before try to adopt diversity and inclusion, but after the George Floyd riots and companies are starting to invest more in diversity and inclusion. So our question is, do you see these diversity and inclusion initiatives as a quick fix just to save face, or do you see them as if they're here to stay?
Great question. I get asked often. Listen, there's no blanket response to that. Clearly depends on the individual firms, the motivation of the individual leaders. And so, yes, I would say that I am somewhat hopeful that the more uncomfortable conversations are being had. That is absolutely encouraging, and that's a permanent change to the degree that things will effectively change. I guess the jury's still out. People forget that MLK's famous "I Have a Dream" speech. People forget that actually was not the March on Washington. That was the March on Washington for jobs. That was an economic, and people forget that. And so, we've been here before, but to the degree that, listen, I have no choice but to be hopeful and be optimistic for the future because I'm sitting here with 4 or 5 amazing young people who are all dressed better than me at the moment. Like, how could I not be hopeful? Because what choice do we have? Nonetheless, we have to lean into the moment regardless of what society presents, because that's what we can do.
Yeah, and Troy, kind of two questions, and maybe we've touched on this. We have touched on this a little bit, in the event tonight. And I think it's really important for something for the main part of our audience to hear. What is something that firms must do to help Black talent excel? Namely in the finance industry, particularly on Wall Street. And what is something that young Black talent must do to help to position themselves to become top candidates for these roles?
Again, Parker, loaded question. I can pontificate on what the firms can do, but at the end, I would be intellectually dishonest to really speak to that too much because, again, it's America. Firms will all, to some moral, philosophical, if not practical degree, have obligations directly to their shareholders. And that becomes a very convoluted argument as to what is essentially in the shareholders' best interest. I get it, kind of. So in terms of what they must do, that question needs to sort of be reframed, to the degree that they can support organizations like the Street Smarts, like Wall Street Bound, that is doing the hard work, the grassroots works to find the talent wherever they are, not just at the top same 13 schools. That's a start. Being more intentional about your recruiting pipelines. Wall Street tends to be lazy about this. As I've heard said before, D&I is the only area of corporate America that is allowed to fail. So everyone is recruiting from the same schools. It's competitive. So instead of increasing the diversity and breadth of colleges, universities they recruit from, what do? Now we're looking at freshmen at those same schools. But again, it is what it is. So it's more about, again, what we need to do. And so to your second question, first thing is, listen, we are so far behind in the game that, this is again, another long-term question. I lived in Asia for 13, 14 years. Japan, China, they think not decades, they think in centuries. I promise you right now, China has a 100-year and a 500-year plan. Everyone knows about the Willie Lynch letters. The Willie Lynch letters, how to keep a slave for 1,000 years. This has to be a holistic and long-term approach because we are pushing back against 400 years of history here. And so to the degree, and I don't want to go on a side rant, but parents, the communities, it's the awareness first. How do we become aware of the need for financial literacy? How do we become aware of the importance and value of being connected to the markets? Why should we be? And that's just an awareness campaign that, we can't necessarily ask or put in the hands of corporate America. That's on us as a community, to the degree that, our young people, listen, young people, I was young and did my thing at once. And at some point I loved having fresh new Nikes as well. But, listen, how do we get to the point where our young people are more interested in buying Nike stock? That's the real conversation. That's not, the onus on corporate America per se. So for us in the community, it's, getting to the point where we're educating ourselves, becoming more aware and taking the long view.
Wow, that's really, really powerful. Especially, what I took from that is like, it starts in the household, it starts in the family, and that's, a cultural thing, that needs to be changed. And that's a really powerful statement.
For sure. Listen, as people of color, it almost is a universal statement from people of color, it takes a village. And so we all bear responsibility to each other because our communities where we all live look the same. We all deal with the same stuff. And so, there's a lot to unwrap there. So to the point where I know that my mission, the Street Smarts mission, there's no reason why the next evolution is getting this curriculum, getting this awareness building into the schools. By college, it's already like a challenge. And so, I have a 9-year-old, we talk stocks. So until we're to the point where we're having these conversations in 3rd grade, it's a long ball for what we can do now. But ultimately, this content, this awareness has to be part of the education system. Only 18 states require any financial literacy training in America. Huh? And then you wonder why, we have half the labor force participating, like, why would we not want full labor participation at a minimum? At a minimum, if you're the stone cold, hardest, coldest Republican, at a minimum, a broader, larger tax base. Why not? And so financial literacy would be a place to be. And again, awareness, can't put it on the schools, can't put it on the teachers, but ultimately, I talk stocks with my 9-year-old. And so, there's no excuse.
So, Troy, I've kind of come back in because I have a few questions for you.
Oh boy, I'm on the spot now.
So, for those that don't know, I'm a big LinkedIn person, and Troy kind of turned the tables on me. Usually I find people on LinkedIn and they think I'm stalking them, but Troy contacted me, gosh, it probably wasn't that long ago, but it feels like it's a long, because we talk all the time. And I know that we are looking the latter part of this year of combining some of our programs. Can I ask you, Troy, what do you think that, knowing what your specialty is, and I think I do pretty good with the young folks. How do you see us working together to forward this diversity?
Oh boy! So you put me on the spot after blowing me up by telling the world I cyber stalked you. Thank you very much. But I absolutely did. I want to find out who's out there doing similar work. I'm a collaborative dude. Again, this is a large problem, 400 years of history. I do not claim to have any silver bullet. Who can I work with? Absolutely. But you didn't have to tell the whole world that.
Okay. It actually made me proud that you found me.
Well, no, brother, listen. These 4 young people here are the proof of your work. You're doing amazing work. And so absolutely, I want to find like-minded partners. And so when I noticed, you've been in it for longer than I have. You've been placing the young people. It's a story of passion, of your heart, and actually you building relationships. And that's what this game is about, is relationship building. And so you clearly are just out there doing it. And so to the degree that, I come from more of the technical aspect, being institutional side of the business, content, programming, curriculum, it just became apparent that we're like, listen, we're doing the same thing. And lo and behold, I'm on the East Coast, you're on the West Coast. All old 90s rivalries aside. And it just makes too much sense to not have that conversation, because it's not about my ego. It's just getting the work done at scale. And I'm all about how do we figure out the best way we can, not recreate the wheel, rinse and repeat at scale. And so, brother, you just by these young people, you having such an active junior board, it really speaks to your ability to connect with these young people and your ability to relationship build. And by the way, I would have never thought to have a focus on accounting either. I was a finance major and I hated accounting, quite frankly. So there you have it. So we can get some accounting shine off of you. I'm happy.
Hey, Troy, one of the things that maybe the audience really doesn't know is one of the big pieces that you're able to bring to the table is this training piece. What are some of the, I know you've got like 3 different, paths, but I'd be interested if you could maybe talk a little bit about those. So if people are out there and are thinking about hooking up with the Street Smarts and with Wall Street Bound.
So thank you. So we at present have 3 primary programs. The first is our Introduction to Wall Street Bootcamp, 20 to 25 hours of just that introduction to what this space is about. We start off with slides on slavery. How do we not? Like Wall Street, who built the wall? Like we did. That needs to be recognized. Globalization. What was the first globalization? That was our black bodies. And so we go real with it, from an introduction to the space, asset classes, career paths, technicals, soft skills, professional presentations. Like I love my young people to see a panel of professionals that look and reflective of themselves. One of my favorites I talk about a lot, and not like I even ask his permission anymore, but Atiba. Atiba was the fixed income auto analyst at Nomura and JP Morgan. Atiba is a West Indian immigrant with dreadlocks down to his back. When I first met this brother, I was like, no way. I love you. By the way, I gave props, shout out to Nomura and JP Morgan. Dreadlocks down to his back, the fixed income auto analyst. And so these people need to see that, because I'm not, the messenger matters. And so professional presentations, introduction to soft skills, technical skills, we do some basic Excel modeling just to get a sense as to, okay, some students tend to be, they're finance majors, so they have a better sense of, okay, I want to pursue this. So it's more of like, okay, I know now I really do want to pursue this. Some students kicking the tires, what's this business stuff about? What's this finance about? Let me check it out. But ultimately, it's just to sort of help either turn on the lights or ignite the fire that's already there. The second program we have is a more intensive, which will be launching in full this summer as a single annual cohort called Wall Street Direct. That's an intensive with the express deliverable and purpose of preparation for the Wall Street summer internships. Very intensive. Those internships are very competitive. As an org, we focus on the front office, so that's the most lucrative, client-facing, investment-facing, and so we have to go deep on, the modeling, the technical skills, the language, the jargon, etc. And as a result, you're expected, everyone will sit to receive portable, stackable industry certifications. Because what a lot of young people don't know is that you send your resume, before a human even gets to see your resume, they're put through a machine because they just swamped. So these machines do Boolean searches on certain keywords. And so if you don't have finance club or certain things on your resume, you just don't get the look. It doesn't pop out. And so I decided to swap a portion of my curriculum with the FINRA SIE, Securities Industry Essentials, which is the new pre-Series 7, pre-Series exam. So, when I came up, you had to be sponsored by a firm to get licensed. And it's sort of like, well, how do I get in? But now all you need to be is 18, $65, I think it is, to get that first FINRA certification. So now you have FINRA on your resume. And so wherever you are, zip code, GPA, school, that now is your ticket to the game. Because no matter where you go in the world, FINRA on your resume, you're part of a club now. And anyone on the street recognizes that, and they can't take that away from you. So that's better than a Wall Street bound certificate per se. Next is the CFA Investment Foundations certificate. Until a month ago, it was free. We're actually speaking with them, but let's just call it still free for the moment, where it's the precursor, pre-training to the CFA charter. But again, you go through basic industry training. You now have also CFA Society, CFA on your resume. Game changers. Few hours of work. It's online. SIS. And so you walk away with tangible things that not only demonstrate knowledge mastery, but now you got some paper on next to your name. Last but not least is my favorite. I don't hate to say it, but my favorite, not necessarily through the traditional Wall Street path, but we launched in June a program called the Diverse Trader Training Program, where it's this idea of how do we bring the game back uptown, because not everyone's going to be able to go through that Wall Street interview. Even with the technical skills, I'm not going to sound like I summer in the Hamptons or in Aspen, or what do you guys have? What's across the bridge? I'll name some fancy town. We're not going to sound like that. And so that's not to say that young people everywhere do not have the capacity to still crush the market. So we have a program where we've connected with proprietary trading firms. Our partner now, our first one is Maverick Trading. Prop shops their model is to allocate capital to independent traders. And if you can prove to them you can manage risk and make them money, they don't care what you look like, what sports you play, make us money. And so it's been an easier conversation. And so we partnered with this firm that focuses on two products, stock options and foreign exchange. online training. Stock options is 200 hours, 250. Forex currencies is 100 hours. After that, you put together a trading business plan based on your personality, your style. Then we let you go and do paper trading for 2 months. The purpose of that is not to see profitability, because no way, you just started. All we want to see and know is, are you disciplined enough to stick to your business plan? After that period, we have an assessment, and if you prove that you followed your trades and followed your plan, there's an internal meeting. You wake up 1 or 2 days later, $25,000 in an account for you to manage. You keep 70% of those profits, and over the course of this 1 year program, after monthly check-ins, that account is expected to be funded up to $250,000 each. You keep 80%. And this is, I think, going to be a game changer, because no matter where you are, what school, I don't care, community college, GPAs, if you have the inclination and the proclivity for the markets, we bring this to you. I get applications as far as Saudi Arabia and Africa every day. Why not? This is scale. I lived in Vietnam, one of the poorest countries on earth. I always scratch my head. Same thing like here in New York. They have not one but two stock exchanges. I'm like, how? As long as you have a laptop and strong Wi-Fi, we got this.
So, Troy, we still have a little bit of time. I know a little bit about each one of these folks that are on the call here. Mira is a engineering major at the University of Illinois, Dean's List, I think. Yeah, Dean's List. And she also, I think, is minoring in economics. Where do you see someone with that kind of a skill set in the finance industry?
Anywhere she wants to go. I mean, if anything, like, engineering is the new it. Like, I don't even know if I could get my old job without any sort of technical background. A few months ago, I started teaching myself Python and quit after a week. I mean, anywhere, well, besides the fact of just clearly being a brilliant sister, but engineering, are you crazy? Like, that jumps to the top of the list these days.
Come on, Mira, I know you got something to say.
Well, she's saying it all with that smile.
No, it's great to hear that, because historically I think people think engineering, you're just going to be sitting in front of a computer your whole life working on gear ratios or calculating something that most people don't understand. But I think people don't realize that, like, things like economics, business, engineering as well, they're applicable to so many different fields, and especially in the finance industry where you kind of need those math skills. You're going to need that. And so I think engineering, I think it definitely helps with that. And it's really great to hear that someone like you, Troy, thinks that with an engineering background, you can go anywhere in the finance industry.
Well, I mean, also think about it. So, to some degree, your majors, they're signals. You're sending out signals to the world. And so to some degree, it's yes. Okay, how serious am I? I've done the work to get into a school, to be on the path to graduation. So that says something about me on one level. On another level, your major, that signals as well, to the degree that you just declare a major, okay, this is what this person is interested in. But at the end of the day, we have to remember and pull back and just say the real value, if you will, it's debatable now, that's all kinds of economic studies on the value of the 4-year degree, the cost, the debt, etc. But when you take back a step, this is all just about training the mind. How are we trained our young people to think? So it's not even necessary, at Salomon Brothers, I sat, 2 seats behind one of the best traders we had, Sugar to his day, Teddy Wong. Teddy grew up in a typical Asian Chinese family. His parents didn't give him a choice. You're going to be a doctor. We called him Dr. Teddy. He wanted to be a trader. He made his parents happy, graduated from med school, went to Wall Street. Get off my back.
Oh my goodness.
And so, it's just, how do you think? That's what this is all really about on a real topical level. And that's what this is all about. So, to the degree that, I'll leave it there.
Okay. So, Troy, Jacob, is graduating, I believe, in May from Holt. And Jacob, where are you from again? I just don't want to say Africa.
Yeah, Nairobi, Kenya.
Nairobi, Kenya. I thought it was Kenya. And I know that he would like to just kind of represent his folks. And I'm very, supportive of him doing that. And from what Jacob has told me, there's a lot of activity going on now in Africa. Do you have any words of wisdom for him?
Oof. So I've been to the continent several times, as far back as Mike. What year was the Million Man March?
Oh my goodness! Oh, that was a while ago. I don't know.
96 something.
It was in the 90s, like the mid 90s, yeah. Probably before.
So around that time, my first time on the continent, I went to Ghana with no money to buy a company. Explain that. And let's just say that subsequently, the land of opportunity, you cannot underline that statement enough. Where else on earth, to the degree that China has come in and filled the soft power vacuum the last 20 years. Okay, that's a real conversation there about extracting resources in different ways. But to the degree as in terms of raw economies, Nigeria alone as a country is a powerhouse. And when you break it down, so listen, brother, yeah, there's a lot to be done there. Obviously, the historical story, but just in terms of raw, what they call blue ocean, blue sky opportunity. Again, for some, I don't know, I can't call it strange, but for that third program, that diverse trader training, I get applications from Africa all the time, and for interesting reason or interesting, also a fair amount of sisters. Like the ladies are just really represented. But I've got an application maybe a month or two ago from a bank manager in Nairobi, some sisters from South Africa. So this thing that we're doing and we're speaking to, hashtag the street smarts, hashtag Wall Street Bound. Our young people. Our people are hungry because we know how the other side lives. And when you get a taste, when you see that, there's something in our bellies that we know is there. So brother, like absolutely, whenever you feel you've learned enough of the game, you suck this place dry, absolutely take that back home. And you and I will absolutely be in touch because lots to be done. I've been fortunate to be on the continent a few times. Good friend of mine, his mother was an ambassador under President Clinton. Yeah, amen, brother. Just do your thing here, get the knowledge you need, and the rest is just your journey. I get it.
All right. And Troy, I know that you have a couple of times had a chance to meet Brahim, and Brahim has a really interesting background. He's a finance person, but he wants to be an attorney, which is an interesting mix. It was interesting. I was listening in on a webinar yesterday with Eric Chung from Lighthaven Capital, and he was a lawyer, and now he has his own hedge fund, and he's also with Coinbase. There's like three parts of it, but he's doing that. And I was like, that is really interesting. You got anything for him?
I think it's brilliant. I mean, listen, first off, the combined MBA JD is like not a new thing, right? Number one. Number two, to have a legal training and business mind, like I'm scared of this dude already. You can do, first off, again, the base level here, the base assumption here is these young people can do whatever they put their minds to, period.
I agree.
Now, to the degree in terms of that signaling again of the degrees and what society might say you're good for or can be. Yeah, listen, if you're a lawyer, depending on obviously what kind of law practice you're interested in, that's a different question. That's a question, of course. If it's civil liability or something, okay. But obviously, if anything finance related, like a guy like this on a corporate finance team and the M&A deal team, like, come on, like, how do you not have both those disciplines? So
He's smiling, so it must be resonating. What? Go ahead.
Well,
Because mergers
but
and acquisitions is exactly where I actually want to go into.
say that again.
Mergers and acquisitions is definitely what I want to go into in the legal side. So you hit that right on this.
I mean, you hit it. You're the one doing it, Holmes. I mean, boom, like really.
So, and Raheem, it's has been very instrumental in.
Hey, by the way, I have to jump in for a minute. Forgive me, Michael, but listen. All due respect to our brother Reginald Lewis. We all know Reginald Lewis, the $1 billion buyout of Tropicana. Why do white guys have all the fun? He started off as he was a lawyer, a deal lawyer. And at some point he was like, yo, I can do this too. And there we go. The world knows Reginald Lewis now. He started off as a lawyer on those deal teams. And he was like, I can do this too. And ultimately, as a professional, depends on what you want to do with your life, brother. But I've never heard of any $1 billion lawyers unless you own law firms. And so if you really want some of that cheddar on another level, that's where you applied it. And clearly there's a roadmap before you.
That's good. Last but not least, Mr. Parker. I think you've gotten a chance to know this young man, but I see so much promise in him, and he will be doing his internship this summer at PIMCO. Parker, where is that? Somewhere, right?
Yeah, I'll be in Newport Beach.
In Newport Beach. Have you been to California before?
Never. So I've never been west of Texas. Austin, Texas. So I'm very excited to go out there.
No, he doesn't want any of that sunshine and nice people. He doesn't want none of that.
Come on, Troy. I'm from Florida, man. I've experienced it on one level, so I'm just trying to get it next.
Okay.
So Troy, him being at PIMCO,
drop the mic. There's nothing to say anymore, man. Drop the mic.
Drop it.
Boom. He's at PIMCO. His life is in a straight line.
Yeah, we're going to be working with them on some initiatives that we'll talk about offline. But Parker has just been an amazing young man. He already had his internship before he came to us, but he has worked so hard. This was his and Jacob's plan on how to do it. They listened to me, and they just took the ball and went running. So, Parker, I'm going to let you wrap her up. And Troy, thank you so much, brother. It just makes me feel good that we're going to be doing even more things together. And we're doing it for, you guys aren't kids, but we're doing it for you guys so you can help make a difference in the world. And I just wish that when I graduated from Bradley University in May of 1980 with the business finance degree, I wish there had been a Troy out there that could have pointed me in the right direction. But he and I are gonna help do this for the Parkers and Jacobs and Miras and Brahims of the world. So I'm actually gonna back out and I'm gonna let Parker finish us up.
Yeah. Perfect. And just to echo what Michael said, thank you so much, Troy, for coming on. There's so much great things. It's just the beginning of the, Wall Street Bound and TSS relationship. And it's the sky is not even the limit, the stars are. So it's just, there's so much going on, and really appreciate your time, appreciate your effort, and looking forward to building that relationship in the future. Thank you everyone joining tonight. This has been a really great event featuring Troy Prince, a Wall Street Bound CEO. And thanks for coming out. Please visit our website too, TSS, thestreetsmarts.org, and please donate to our GoFundMe to help producing these really great events. Thank you so
And
much, everyone.
if I can also say wallstreetbound.org, if that's okay.
Yes, and wallstreetbound.org. Yeah, yeah.
Wallstreetbound.org as well, if you don't mind. But thank you so much. This has been amazing. And this event, you young people are exactly why I wake up every day. I'm living my purpose, and I should thank you folks for just having me. This is what it's about. Michael?
So I want to tell everybody, the panel, I'm going to stop the broadcast, but please stay. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.